You like games about gladiators?
Welcome to Ophidian 2360 Survival of the Fittest. This non-collectible tactical gladiator combat game comes in challenge sets, which come in 3 varieties. Mental Block versus Warrior's Resolve, War Machine versus Biohazard, and The Art of War versus Otherworld Allies. Each challenge set contains 2 playable 56-card decks. Let's take a look at some of the cards that come in a challenge set. First, we have a rules reference card with some extra reminding rules on both sides of this card. Next, we have resource counters and cheer trackers. You can use these cards if you don't have one of the playmats that we have available on our website. Next, you'll find the gladiators. You can separate those out. Note that while the decks that come in the challenge sets are fully playable, we do encourage you to customize your decks to suit your play style. Your deck will be built around a team of gladiators, up to 4 of them. The disciplines on those gladiators will determine what cards you'll want to put into your strategy deck. Let's take a look at this deck. This deck comes with Soul Cleaver and the higher level Soul Cleaver card, the Conqueror, and the Conqueror's higher level card, and finally Vengeance, and Vengeance's higher level card. It also comes with a reinforcement, Lady Leonor. And if you flip the reinforcement that comes in your deck over, you'll see an icon reference card. Let's take a look at the disciplines in the game, starting with Mystic, harnessing Chi for healing and inner strength. Summoner, opening portals to other dimensions to bring creatures to do your bidding. Universal, this is a discipline that everyone has access to. Warrior, martial arts, heavy weapons, special attacks. Tech, this is high technology, robotics, cybernetics. Psionic, mental abilities, mental manipulation. Finally, Biogen. This is all sorts of mutations and bio-diseases. Each discipline has its own specific flavor and mix of different card types in that discipline. The disciplines that you choose will complement your gladiators or hurt your opponent. Disciplines are provided by your gladiators at the level indicated by the number next to those discipline symbols. Soul Cleaver provides Mystic and Summoner at level 1 each. The Conqueror and Vengeance both provide Warrior and Mystic at level 1 each. When building your team, you must have exactly 10 victory points at level 1, found in the upper right-hand corner. Taking a look at the other deck we opened, you'll see this team has Auxilipool, the Avatar of Kisterbeck, Penumbra, and Gateweaver, and Maelstrom, the reinforcement. While players must bring exactly 10 victory points on level 1 gladiators to the table, you can bring up to 4 gladiators. Having more gladiators might give you more options, but having fewer gladiators means they're probably stronger and more durable. Sharp-eyed viewers might have noticed that this added up to 11 victory points, but the Avatar of Kisterbeck is a legend, and one legend on your team can reduce their victory point total by their patron discount. Let's take a closer look at some of the elements on a gladiator card. Here's Livewire. At level 1, she starts with 3 disciplines in the upper left corner. Along the bottom, we have Life. This is how many wounds a gladiator can take before they're defeated. Next, we have Rage. We can talk about Rage later. The next stat is attack damage. This is how much damage a gladiator deals when they attack. Some gladiator cards have additional stats. On the far left, we have Shield. When a gladiator with shield takes damage, they reduce the attack damage by their shield value. Finally, defense damage. Whenever a gladiator with defense damage is attacked, they deal this damage back to their attacker. Besides forming the nexus of your team, gladiators can also level up during the game, flipping them over from level 1 to level 2, and some gladiators have a level 3 and level 4 card as well. As they level up, gladiators' attributes can change and increase. They also provide higher level disciplines. Let's take a look at the other card types in the game found in your strategy deck, starting with minions. Minions are similar to gladiators in that they are both considered characters. They also have an attack damage and a life value. If you look at the upper left corner, you'll see the disciplines required to play this card. These disciplines are provided by the gladiators you have in play. Mythic Beast requires a Mystic at level 3 or higher, and a Summoner at level 1 or higher. If you meet the requirements to play Mythic Beast, you'll need to pay for it. In the upper left-hand corner, you'll find the resource cost for Mythic Beast. In this case, is 5. In the lower left corner, you'll see the maintain cost, which is what you'll need to pay during the breather to keep Mythic Beast in play. Next, we have pump cards. Pumps are cards that play on characters. Sometimes you'll play them on your own characters to improve them, and sometimes you'll play them on your opponent's characters to hurt them. Energy Whip has a discipline requirement of Warrior level 2 or higher. Like minions, pumps have resource and maintain costs. Note that there is also a cannot be maintained icon that appears on some cards. Finally, we have quick hits. Quick hits are one-shots. You play them, they have their effect, and then they are discarded. Wrath has a discipline requirement of Psionic, level 4 or higher. Unlike the other card types, quick hits don't remain in play, so they only have a resource cost and no maintain cost. In the upper right corner of these cards, as well as on abilities on gladiators and other characters, you will find momentum symbols. These are positive, negative, variable, and responses. While a player has momentum, they can take actions. As long as they continue to take positive actions, they can continue to take actions until they take a negative action. At which point, momentum passes to the next player to the left. Variable actions are considered negative unless you meet the requirements in the game text of the card or ability, in which case they are positive. The game text of response abilities and cards will tell you when it is appropriate to play these responses. Note that unlike the other action types, responses can be played whether you have the momentum or not, as long as you meet the requirements to play that action. Now let's talk about movement and combat in the game of Ophidian. We will refer to this playmat. Ophidian is played in fields, found in front of each player. We have the action field up front, that's where you're going to be attacking from, and the support field in the back. Note that some playmats actually say supply field. On the left, you can keep track of your victory points. On the right, you can keep track of your cheer total, and you can keep track of your resources here. As I mentioned, you'll be making your attack actions from the action field, and the support field is where your minions will come into play, and a place you'll be able to protect some of your characters and give yourself more tactical options. Note that while you can be in either field, there is no direct positional relationship between the action field and the support field. You're either in one field or the other. Once you've selected your starting gladiators, you're going to set your beginning resources to 10 plus the number of the next wave. Since we're going into the first wave, you're going to start with 11 resources. Set your starting victory points and cheer to 0, and let's draw our opening hand. Draw to your max hand size, which the default is 7. Note that game text on some gladiators can modify your max hand size and or your starting hand size, or the starting hand size of your opponents. Once you've drawn your starting hand, you're going to draw 2 additional cards. Now, take a look through your hand and take special note of the discipline requirements of the cards in your hand. Anything that requires a discipline level higher than 1 probably won't be played in the first wave. The Fist of Kajan requires Mystic at level 3, as does the Mythic Beast. And Portal Prison requires a Summoner at level 3, so these 2 cards are great choices. Take these cards and place them on the bottom of your deck in the order of your choice. Every time you refill your hand, you will draw 2 additional cards and then place 2 cards of your choice from your hand on the bottom of your deck. When sorting through your hand, be sure to check the momentum symbols on the upper right corner so that you'll know when you'll be able to play these cards. Let's say you wanted to play this Sand Spirit. Sand Spirit is a negative action that requires a level 1 or less and a level 0 or less mystic. You happen to have 3 level 1 mystics on this team, so you're good to go. Sand Spirit costs 3 resources. So reduce your resources by 3 and put Sand Spirit into play in the support field. Now, since Sand Spirit is a negative action, the momentum would pass to your opponent. They would take actions until they take a negative action, in which case the momentum will pass back to you. Characters in the support field can advance as a positive action. Characters in the action field can retreat as a negative action, and if they are unset, they become set. Characters who are set in the action field can retreat as a negative action. It is the only action a set character can take while in the action field.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Set?
Setting a card just means rotating it 90 degrees. To unset a card, rotate it back 90 degrees. The game text on some cards and abilities has a set symbol. This means that you will need to set this card to use that effect. Let's talk about combat. Let's say Arxilopol on the opposing team decides to attack you. Arxilopol sets and chooses a target. Let's say Arxilopol is going to go after Vengeance. In this situation, you have 2 options. You can take the damage that Arxilopol deals, which is 2, or a gladiator in the same field can set to intercept the attack. They become the target and they take the damage from that attack. Now, let's say Vengeance was in the support field, and Arxilopol still wants to go after Vengeance. In this situation, you have the same 2 options as before. Take the damage, or intercept with an unset gladiator in the same field. They become the target, they take the damage. Note that unless its game text says it can, a minion is not able to intercept. Or an unset gladiator in the action field can protect a target in the support field. It's similar to intercepting. They become the target, they take the damage, but it doesn't require them to set. Now, let's talk about cheer. This is a spectator sport, and this is where the crowd gets involved. So, Arxilopol is going to perform the same attacks as before, choosing Vengeance as the target. If Vengeance takes the damage, that's exciting to the crowd, and Arxilopol's player is going to gain 1 cheer. If you intercept with an unset gladiator in the same field, that is so exciting. It actually rallies the crowd, and you get the cheer instead of your opponent. This is a way for you to steal the cheer and prevent your opponent from gaining cheer. Moving to our third example, if Vengeance is attacked in the support field, and you protect with an unset gladiator in the action field, this isn't as exciting for the crowd, and the cheer still goes to the original attacker. So whenever a gladiator attacks, a cheer is on the line and will be awarded. This is a gladiator combat game, and that's what the people came to see. So when a minion sets to attack, it'll deal its attack damage as normal, but minions don't generate cheer when they attack. So now that you've earned this cheer, what are you supposed to do with it? In Ophidian, cheer is used 3 ways. The first is that it's an alternate victory condition. If you can reach 15 cheer at any point in the game, you instantly win. You've excited the crowd to such a point where they rush the field and tear your opponents apart. That is called a crowd riot victory. The second use is that if you have more cheer than any other player in the game, you are considered the crowd favorite. There are certain cards, like Kaltasha's Molten Hammer, that'll have an icon on them that refers to this. This usually takes the form of improving the card's ability in some fashion. The third and most important use is now that you have fans in the stands, you can call on those fans to help you. You can spend a cheer whenever your opponent takes a positive action to roar, which converts it into a negative action. This allows you to take the momentum from your opponent. So in the example from before, if Arxilopal is going after Vengeance and you intercept, let's say with Soul Cleaver this time, she takes the damage and you gain a cheer, and you can immediately spend that cheer to convert the attack into a negative action. Just remember, your opponent can do the same to you when you do a positive action. Having fans really pays off. Now let's talk about the breather. This is what happens after all players have consecutively passed. First, we're going to determine momentum, counting up wounds on gladiators and not on minions. This is where we see which player has inflicted the most damage on their opponent. Defeated gladiators take their life and add it to the total as well. Whoever has the highest total wounds inflicted on their gladiators will start the next wave with the momentum, and will go first during the remaining steps of the breather if there is a question of timing. The next step is regenerate, where we regenerate 3 things. First, all cards in play unset. That's the first thing we're going to regenerate. Next, we regenerate our resources. Set it to 10 plus the next wave. Finally, we're going to regenerate our hands. Discard any cards you don't want. Then you're going to refill to your maximum hand size. And then draw 2 additional cards. Choose 2 cards from your hand that you don't want right now and place them on the bottom of your deck in the order of your choice. That completes the regenerate step. So let's move on to maintain. This is where you look at all the cards you've brought into play that have a maintain cost, and you'll need to pay it. You can pay it out of your resources, or if you don't want to pay for a card, for example, this Energy Whip, you can simply discard them to avoid having to pay for them. The Energy Whip requires a discipline level of 2, so you actually couldn't have played it yet. Add up the maintain costs of the cards you want to keep in play, and subtract that from your total resources. The next step we're moving into is the promote step. This is where you get to level up your gladiators. Look through your hand and see what discipline levels are required by the cards you have. This might help you to decide which gladiators you want to promote. During the promote step, you'll get to promote up to 2 different gladiators. Let's promote Vengeance, flipping her over from level 1 to level 2. When you promote a gladiator, they also heal 1 wound. Note that the attributes on Vengeance have changed, and the victory points have increased. Finally, Vengeance's warrior discipline has increased by 1, allowing you to play higher level warrior cards. For our second promotion, let's promote the Conqueror. Both his disciplines raise up by 1 level, which will allow us to play higher level mystic cards as well. Things can get rather brutal in the arena, and sometimes you will lose gladiators. During the promote step, if you have lost any of your original gladiators, putting them in the funeral pyre, you can bring in reinforcements to take their place. Let's look at Lady Leonor. She has a mystic level of 0 and is worth 2 victory points. She also has the reinforcement keyword, which means it is not allowed to be a starting gladiator. Note the maintain cost of 2. Since this comes out in the promote step, and we've already passed the maintain step, you won't have to pay for this card until the next maintain step. Reinforcements are still gladiators, so they can intercept, protect, and generate cheer when they attack. Players can bring up to 3 reinforcement gladiators, and they start in your gladiator stack. Now let's talk about the last step of the breather, the maneuver step. But before we do that, we should talk about rage. This is what happens when a gladiator is berserk. When a gladiator has taken enough wounds equal to or greater than their rage value, in Vengeance's case, that's 5 or more, you can put a rage token on them to indicate that they are raging. A raging gladiator has 3 things that you have to remember. The first is that they will not retreat as an action. Other cards and actions can retreat cards that are raging, because that is not the raging character taking the retreat action. The Conqueror's ability, advance or retreat each of 2 target gladiators, would be able to retreat Vengeance if she were raging. The other 2 effects of rage have to do with combat. If an unset raging character is the target of an attack, they will deal 1 rage damage to the attacker. It's always a default of 1, but it can be modified. If a raging character who is set is attacked, they won't deal rage damage back, but instead, they will actually unset in response to that attack. Note that if the attack is intercepted or protected, rage cannot be used by the original target or the protecting or intercepting character. Now that we've got rage out of the way, let's talk about the last step, maneuver. This is where you can set a new formation for your team, starting with the player who's going to begin with momentum. This is the only time you can place a raging gladiator into the support field because you are setting a new formation. No one is attacking or retreating. Once you're satisfied, the maneuver step is over, and the next wave begins. Play continues over a series of 4 waves. At the end of the 4th wave, whoever has the highest victory point total is the winner. Victory points are scored by defeating an opponent's gladiators, adding those victory points that you have defeated to your victory point total. For example, if I were to have defeated Gateweaver, who's worth 2 victory points, I would increase my total to 2. If at any point a player has scored a total of 12 victory points, they will immediately win the game. Otherwise, at the end of the 4th wave, if you are tied in victory points, you will play a tiebreaker wave, moving into a breather, and a 5th tiebreaker wave, and so on, as needed. That is Ophidian 2360. Thanks for watching.